Most recently, the suggestions that have been put forward have been the use of what's called a prenuptial agreement. It's a sort of an addition to the ketubah in which the parties agree that should they wish to get divorced, and should the law courts, the Beit Din, the Batei Din, declare an obligation for divorce, that is to say a chiyuv get, should either party then become recalcitrant and not wish to give or to receive consensually the divorce, the opposite party will pay a, let's call it a fine. So every month he'll have to pay, let's say, half of his salary, or whatever it is. It makes it quite unpleasant. And it's a way of, as it were, forcing a person from a financial point of view to give the get. I think the RCA actually approved of one of the various models of a prenuptial agreement, and even declared that RCA rabbis should not conduct a wedding ceremony unless there's also a prenuptial agreement. Whether that's carried out or not is another question. However, although this was very carefully crafted and by a number of very prominent rabbis, and bear in mind that the prenuptial agreement varies from one country to another because it has to take into account local legal procedures, like the New York get law and so on and so forth. In Israel, there are different laws. Even though it was, as I say, very carefully crafted, many rabbis who sit on the Batei Din feel that this is nonetheless a form of coercion. The husband is not giving the get because he really wants to. It's because he's being squeezed financially to give a get. So he's not actually being physically coerced, but he's being financially coerced. And therefore, from their point of view, this is also a get me'useh, or a get kafui. The nature of the various prenuptial agreements always attempts to deal with this subject in a very carefully formulated fashion. But those rabbis and those dayanim who take the stringent view nonetheless will regard this as some form of coercion. So the real question that we're dealing with from a halakhic point of view is what constitutes coercion, and now we will get to the next point, what constitutes valid, legitimate coercion. Now there exists in the halakha two types of coerced gitin, two types of get me'useh. Get me'useh al pi ha'halakha, a coerced get in accordance with law, and get me'useh shelo al pi ha'halakha, coerced get not in accordance with the law. What does it mean, get me'useh al pi ha'halakha? How can it be al pi ha'halakha if every get has to be given consensually? So there are a number of Talmudic sources, especially in Masechet Ketubot, Daf Ein Zayin Amud Aleph. There's a list of Eile Shekofin Oto Lohotzi. These are the cases where the Beit Din forces the husband to give a get. Then it gives a list of what sort of situations are we talking about. The list is not important to us now. Mukashchin, Baal Polypus, Hamakametz, Hamatzaref, Nechoshet, Vabuse. These are people that have some sort of serious flaws. Somebody who's stinky because of his work, like a leather tanner. Somebody that has some sort of physical imperfections, and so on and so forth. And this list can be augmented from several other Talmudic sources in Yevamot and in Yerushalmi Ketubot, which lists additional types of, let's call them imperfections, which it makes perfect sense. It's clear that the woman can't live with this man, and therefore the marriage cannot be sustained, and therefore the court has the right to force the husband to give a get.